The bond between a mother and son is very powerful, and I completely understand that, but at a certain age. Surely men begin to be more independent, right? At least that is what I had always assumed, but I later learned that I was wrong. Let me start off by saying that my name is Kendra, and I started dating my husband Abe. Soon after, we both started working for the same company. We were both fresh out of college and started in intern positions. The company we worked for was really big, and the fact that we met at all was just a fun coincidence, but at the time, I thought it was destiny. Oh, how wrong I was. It didn't take long after we started dating for us to move in together, and within a year, we were married and were making plans to buy a small house on the outskirts of the city. We knew that we would need the room since we wanted to have children, and the small apartment that we were renting just didn't have enough room. And so, we began to start saving up. We put most of our money into a joint account and kept a little in our personal savings accounts for things like gas, or gifts, or even just small personal splurges. We knew that since we were both very frugal and since we had moved up in the company and had jobs that paid fairly well, that we would be able to save up enough money fairly quickly, and so we began trying to have a child. Part of me was excited, but I began to feel a bit concerned when my husband announced that he had made a plan for us.
So I've already picked out the best location for us to buy a house. There is a lovely neighborhood near to my mother that is being built right now. If we buy there, we'll be 5 minutes away from my mom.
That neighborhood is a bit out of our price range, though. We would have a hard time affording it and having children. Are you sure you want to start looking at the houses there?
Well, yes. If I have to move, then I would prefer to move closer to her, after all. She'll want to see her grandchildren whenever she can, and she can babysit for us.
He did have a point. Having his mother close by would be useful since she could look after the children while we were at work. But I didn't like that he was looking past the fact that we simply could not afford the houses he wanted to look at. All because they were closer to his mother. There had been times in the past that Abe had done such things, and I had always wondered if he was still a mama's boy. At any rate, we began trying to have a child, and in the beginning, it was a lot of fun. It had been a while since we were intimate this much, but that slowly faded as it began to feel like a chore. It didn't help that Abe's mother kept coming over and putting her 2 cents in.
Kendra, maybe you aren't eating right, or you're having too much caffeine.
No, that isn't it. My doctor has taken my blood many times now, and everything is good. And I stopped drinking anything with caffeine months ago.
Well, then maybe you're wearing clothes that are too tight. After all, you do dress rather poorly.
My clothes have nothing to do with it. Whenever she made such comments, I did my best to try to ignore her, although it wasn't always an easy thing to do. After a few months of trying and having no luck, Abe and I decided to go to a specialist and see if they could get down to the root of the cause. Unbeknownst to me, Abe had invited his mother to come over and live with us until after the baby was settled, which surprised me to hear since I still wasn't even pregnant. Hey, is there a reason that your mother is moving in?
It's just in advance to you getting pregnant. She's just here to help us.
I was anxious about it, and sure enough, things began to change. Abe typically would cook as he tended to get home from work first, but suddenly his mother was making all of our meals, and while I appreciated it, she tended to cook meals that were far too fatty and unhealthy, and while that was okay occasionally, it was not a good idea to eat that way all the time. In the interest of keeping to a healthy diet, I tried to approach my mother-in-law. Hey, is there any chance we maybe have something healthier to eat more often?
I cook what my son asks me to cook.
Yes, and I appreciate it, and if it's too much hassle, I don't mind cooking as well. I just worry that the meals you're making are a bit too unhealthy.
Unhealthy? Well, maybe the reason that you aren't pregnant yet is because you are the unhealthy one. I hope you haven't destroyed your womb somehow. Maybe if you were healthy, you will finally give me a grandchild.
I was getting near to my breaking point. But I also knew that Abe was loving having his mother living with us. He was walking around the house like he was a kid in a candy store. The last straw, though, happened shortly after my mother-in-law's car broke down. It was an older car and was on its way out, but it wasn't too much of a problem. Since she was living with us and should she need a ride somewhere, or if she wanted to head out, then we could either give her a lift or let her borrow one of our cars. At least that's what I thought. Instead, I came home from work and saw a brand new luxury car in the driveway. At first, I didn't understand who it belonged to and merely went to the mailbox to get the mail, and I saw that the test results from the specialist had arrived. Eager to read the results, I rushed inside. Wow, that car is really something special. Who does it belong to?
It's my car. Abe bought it for me.
He did? Wait a minute. What? Abe, how did you afford to buy that car?
I just used the money from our joint account. After all, it's not like we are getting pregnant anytime soon.
Well, I just got the results of our tests, Abe, but honestly, it doesn't matter. You should have asked me before you spent that money.
Oh, what do I care? Those results just show what we all know, that you're infertile and can't give me a child.
Angrily, I opened the letter and a dark smirk spread across my face. Actually, Abe, you're the infertile one, not me. And I threw the letter at him and then stormed out. That was it. I had had enough of the two of them constantly belittling me. The next day, I went and spoke to a lawyer and had them file for divorce. I knew that Abe would never change, and that he would always put his mother's needs ahead of mine. And if I wanted to be a mother, then I would need to move on and try with someone else, as he would never be happy with adopting, and that would be the only option for us. A few months later, our divorce was finalized, and I could not have been happier with the verdict. The judge had listened to both of our cases, and the fact that my ex-mother-in-law kept butting in and tried to give my ex-husband advice on what to say showed why our marriage had fallen apart. The judge looked over our case and awarded me the luxury car that my husband had bought for his mother as compensation for him draining our bank account. He also awarded me $25,000 in alimony on account of his and his mother's verbal abuse. In the end, he was broke and forced to move back in with his mother. And I know for a fact that he hasn't even dated anyone since. Sometimes I think he is just a mama's boy. He became depressed and was fired for always coming to work late, so now he survives on his mom's pension. Personally, I don't think he is doing that well mentally. I have heard that he has adopted a cat and that he speaks to it as if it's his wife. It can't be that easy for the two of them living off of her pension since she doesn't get that much money, plus she isn't young, and after she passes away, he is going to go into a spiral. As for me, I took some time for myself and saw a therapist for a bit to do some healing. It did me a lot of good, and eventually I met a man that was truly an amazing match for me. He was the perfect match for me, and not long after we got married, I became pregnant with twins. When we found out, we were overjoyed. And of course, I knew that I needed to share the good news, and I sent a picture of my twins once they were born to Abe, to show him what he was missing out on. Oh, and as for my new mother-in-law, she's wonderful too, and she has a much healthier relationship with my new husband. Thanks for watching.